حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند Allah. Barely a month had gone by since the death of Rasulullah, before they came banging on that door. Let us narrate the story of how Fatima's ribs were trampled upon, and as how she lay helpless on that floor. The enemy of Allah, eager to get the allegiance of Ali ibn Abi Talib, approached the house of Fatima. A key important fact indeed, Amir al-Mu'mineen. He knew he had to be patient on the greatest tragedy which was instructed by God not to act. I always wonder how they had the audacity to approach the house of the only daughter of Rasulullah, the Queen of Paradise, the angel molded into human form. She was Al-Batul, Al-Aziza, Sayyidatun Nisa'ul Alameen, the mother of her father, Al-Zakiyya Al-Tahira. Couldn't they let her grieve in peace? They waged war on her husband, and now they gathered a small army and began screaming and shouting for Ali to come out from the house. They even stole the inheritance that was left to her by her dear father, Rasulullah, that piece of land, Fadak, which these same individuals came and stole from her. They brought claims that it was not permissible Islamically for her to inherit things which should be passed on to the Muslim Ummah. La'natullahi alaykum. How is it that they tried to teach her the rules of Islam when she is the reason for the creation of the whole of mankind? Such a young woman, but she was so strong. She had seen so much tragedy, and still she had complete faith from witnessing the abuse of her father during his life, his struggles and trials, to how his ummah treated his darling daughter after his death. Fatima al Zahra and called out to telling them to leave the vicinity of her house. The cursed man then made a threat which changed the course of history. He had the audacity to threaten and shout, "O Ali, come out from that house or we shall burn it down with you inside." One of the other men from the army remarked, "But Fatima al Zahra, the daughter of the Prophet, is also within this house." This so-called leader of the Muslims replied and said, "Wa'in, and what?" The so-called Muslim said, "What into Fatima al Zahra?" The enemies of Allah decided the next action would be to burn down the house. Ya Allah, this is the house of Fatima. This is the door of Allah. They lit the house of Fatima and the flames set alight. Fatima al Zahra said as the flames engulfed the door and the black smoke began to creep inside the house of Fatima, she said, I began to choke. I began to choke from the intensity of the smoke. Ya Allah. The narrations say, at these moments Zahra was stood behind the door. The enemy of Allah then kicked open the door. Behind the door was Fatima. She got crushed between the door and the wall. Ya Muhammad. Fatima cried, Ya Allah. enemy of Allah. He said, when I heard Fatima cry, I thought I'll turn back and go. But then he remembered Ali. He remembered Ali killing the Arabs for the sake of justice. But indeed in his mind he thought otherwise. So instead the enemy of Allah turned round and kicked the door a second time on Fatima. Ya Allah, Fatima was crushed for a second time between the door and the wall. Ya Shi'at Fatima, this was not all. The protruding nail was said to have implemented inside the lungs of Fatima. The narrations tell us, when they entered the house of Fatima, the enemies of Allah slapped her on both her cheeks. It is said in our narrations that when he slapped her, the intensity of the slap was so hard that it broke the earrings of Fatima. It is said that the slap was so hard that she collapsed onto the floor. This is our mother Fatima. And that is not all. In the narrations it says, as the enemy entered and slapped Fatima, he came and he stepped on the stomach of Fatima. Wa muhsina. On this final point, this truly breaks the heart. Before the moment she called for Nadini, before she called for Fidda's aid, the narrations mention when she was on the floor with a broken rib, Muhsin Shaheed, and with tears flowing down her cheeks, she turns across, by God this is heartbreaking, she turns across the room with tears coming from her eyes. Her eyes met the eyes of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا